Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Rob Fedora coming at you again with another Titans of Service Now. So happy to have Mr. Travis Toulson on this episode. Travis, it's so good to have you here, man.
How's it going, Robert? It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
I guess we always start at the start. And where did you get your start in the ServiceNow ecosystem?
Yeah, so I actually got my start with ThyssenKrupp Steel. I was at a steel mill here in Alabama, and it was my first IT experience altogether. I was working on the night shift desk at the time, and we were a ServiceNow customer, but didn't really have anybody working on it. So my boss came to me and gave me a shot on the platform. You know, the real simple stuff. We need a field on this form. Can you figure out how to take care of that? So that's where I got my start, and eventually got picked up by Covestic, and that's really where I started to cut my teeth, was there.
And what were some of those first projects?
Well,
generally, I know you can't like give away clients or whatever, but just
Absolutely, yeah. I had the privilege of being the UI UX CMS guy. I got to dive into Jelly. I'm not sure if that was because I was good at it or because nobody else wanted it, but it was mine.
I remember way back in the day when I first started, there was this joke that there's 20 people in the universe that know how to use Jelly, and 18 of them work for ServiceNow.
Yeah, I loved in one of their recent presentations where they were talking about the new framework for UI, and they were like, and it's based on Jelly templates. No, just kidding. It's not Jelly templates.
Oh, man. Everybody has a start, right? And some of us do customers and some of us do partners and some of us do both. But you've been around a long time and you have a tremendous amount of name recognition in this space. But for those who maybe haven't heard about Travis, why don't you tell them kind of what you're famous for in the space?
Yeah, so I guess my main claim to fame would be Service Portal's CMS front end. Of course, I've also got the Code Creative blog, and a lot of people know me through that. Most of the time, I'm just doing odds and ends, weird analysis, digging into things I probably shouldn't be digging into, breaking things I probably shouldn't be breaking.
Travis, for those out in the space that haven't heard of Code Creative, why don't you tell them a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, so Code Creative is kind of an extension of my work in the ServiceNow community. I did a lot of early work in the ServiceNow community, but after a while I just couldn't keep up with some of the answers that were given. I'm a little bit long-winded, for those of you who haven't seen my blog, and so I'd be working out an answer, and in the time it took me to go through a 3-paragraph explanation, somebody else or 6 other people have already responded UI policies. So Code Creative is where I go to publish different tidbits on the platform, useful information, things I discover. Come in here, you can see that I've got my blog, which is just as I'm going about my day discovering new things. This is where I post a lot of stuff. But I've also got my guides, which there's only 2 right now. There's a Getting Started and Getting Started on Service Portal. But hopefully I'm going to try and find some more time to build these out. But these are nice little step-by-steps ways of easing people into things. So in a way, it's kind of my documentation site.
At one time, you had kind of a course on Portal. Is that the getting started with Service Portal?
Yeah, so on thinkific.codecreative.io, or .com, I forget which. There's an old course. The Getting Started with Service Portal is the new version of that. I haven't ported over all the content yet, but that is where to get started.
Yeah, so all those people who keep asking me, how do I get started with Service Portal? Can you do more Service Portal? The answer is no. I don't know anything about Service Portal. And if I did, I would be like comparing what I know about Service Portal to what Travis does, is like comparing an ant crawling across the launch manual of a NASA shuttle to the guy who's driving it. So if you want to know more about Portal, check out codecreative.io and check out Travis's guide, because Travis, I think, is, within my top 3 or 4 people that I know of in the space for Service Portal. What else have you done out there that's, I know you can't name names or anything, but what other projects are you really proud of?
The project I'm probably most proud of at this point is actually something I'm working on with GlideFast right now. It's our internal product tool that we call Storyboard. Really, really powerful tool. I'm really enjoying building that out.
Can we see under the hood? I see you're already going to your vendor instance. That's promising.
Absolutely. This here is the Storyboard application. Like I said, all of our product work is done through this tool currently. And basically it starts out on the My Work page. I mean, we still have a lot of work to do on this, but this is where our developers start out, and you can see different screenshots of our applications, Fishbait and CRM Pro are two that we've got on the store. But so when you dive into it, it actually presents the mock-up here, and I can kind of zoom in on different things, and you can see the stories linked up with the mock-up, so I can actually pin exactly where the stories apply to, and it really helps our developers keep a sense of where their work is applied to. You don't have a giant pile of stories where people are like, oh gosh, do we have a story for the nav bar? I don't remember. Well, now you can easily see if you have that story or not.
So do you use this in concert with any kind of like UX wireframing tech, or?
So I mean, we use a couple of different tools. We use YED for our architectural diagrams, and we do a bunch of those. For the UI stuff, honestly, a lot of the time we'll just prototype something in a dev instance in ServiceNow. I mean, that's one of the great things about ServiceNow is it's so quick to snap certain things together.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, some things we've even just drawn it on napkins or something like that and snapshot it and throw it in the tool. Yeah. Storyboard actually started out as a napkin drawing, so it was great.
What's the dream with Storyboard? We can definitely see how you can visually link Storyboard to the visual elements of the app. Where do you go from there?
Honestly, we're looking to build this out into a full agile management tool. We've actually got some internal processes that are more Kanban based than Scrum based.
Mm-hmm.
My background is actually in lean manufacturing, so when I say Kanban, I mean more of the lean manufacturing Kanban, less what it's become in the development spheres. So we're kind of taking a slightly different approach to things just by nature of how our product teams have to work. We borrow a lot of people from customer projects when they're rolling off projects, in between projects. So the idea of a sprint is virtually non-existent to us.
Ooh, that sounds interesting. Maybe we can have another video just on that. Is it just a screenshot, or is it kind of intelligently looking at the interface there?
Yeah, so this is just a screenshot. Basically, it can support any drawing, any diagram, any image file is essentially what it takes.
And does it only deal in stories, or can you attach any kind of task-based record to it?
Currently, it's only story-based, but everybody that I have talked to about it has asked, can we do it with other tasks? Can we do it with the agile management? Can we do it with the project management? Long story short, we're probably going to be adding that support because there's been a lot of folks that have been interested in it. So I don't think it's going to be just an internal tool much longer.
First thoughts in my head were like incidents or defects where somebody wants to point out there's something wrong here and blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like, you hide that, you just control that via the defect record, and then you could break that out into stories as it becomes more refined.
Oh yeah, and it's so quick to do it in this tool too, because you hit the add item mode over here, click a pin, and it pops up the form, and you can start filling it out. I'll just do a quick test one here. Hit it, and then it should pop up automatically, and there it is.
Oh,
so
cool.
It just, as you're doing it, it automatically syncs all of your pins to that particular figure. It's really, really cool. There's a lot of use cases for it.
I'm going back through all my experience and kind of like automatically just putting these yellow pins on top of everything.
Just sitting there in a workshop discussing with the customer, so you want to change this right here and this right here? Oh, yeah.
This is in the wrong spot. And think about we're looking at a plain old Ancient of Days list view, form view, navigator bar, but you put that on top of Portal, and now all of a sudden you got something. That's something really cool. Okay, listen, there's something you said in there that I want to get back to. So you said you did not start in ITSM, you were in lean manufacturing. And so I always tell people in the ServiceNow community, like the most interesting ServiceNow resources that I come across are people who have a past outside of IT or outside of conventional development and have embraced that and brought it into their experience with ServiceNow. So could you talk a little bit about where you were before ServiceNow and how that colored your ServiceNow experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out in the Marine Corps. I was a cryogenic equipment operator, which is a whole lot of words. That means I worked on air cylinders and equipment connected to air cylinders. So I was a mechanic. Now, I was good at computers, by which I mean I could use Microsoft Office fairly well. So I got tasked with a number of things while I was there, and that I kind of built up little by little computer skills on the fly. But I was really heavily into what we called our airspeed program, which was essentially applying lean manufacturing to maintenance processes in the Navy and Marine Corps. Really, I took a lot of that process-driven value stream mapping, process maps, and even the equipment maintenance side of things where I was actually out there working on equipment. There's a lot of troubleshooting in that. There's a lot of thinking through the processes, thinking through how things work. The documentation in Marine Corps manuals is not always the greatest. So, there was a fair amount of reverse engineering on certain things, and a lot of those skills really applied to being able to develop proficiently. And even with Code Creative now, you see where I'm going through and I'm reverse engineering different things in ServiceNow's code, and I'm starting with how it works and then working my way backwards through the code, trying to understand how the whole picture works while looking at only pieces and parts of it. Now, with ServiceNow, of course, I tend to end up with fewer spare parts at the end of my work, which is always good. It's great to have an actual finished product that you can reliably trust.
Do you ever look back to those days and wish you had ServiceNow helping you take those processes on, or does the tool not fit those kind of processes?
Oh my gosh, the things I could do. Actually, one of my first applications I wrote was an access database that essentially just ran a variety of different reports on equipment that was considered beyond capable maintenance and ran a bunch of financials on it. We also had a tool that tracked our inventory management, our Emerald program, knowledge and training programs. I mean, Nowcomis itself, and I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff out here. Nowcomis was our maintenance database. It may even still make an appearance in my LinkedIn bio because I hated that application so much. No offense to anybody that wrote it. It was just, it was so frustrating to use as a mechanic. It was very similar to SAP with its transaction codes, and it was just very, very challenging to use it. And there was just so many places where I would love to go back and use ServiceNow to rebuild some of those applications. Marine Corps, Navy, Department of Defense, ServiceNow, if you guys are listening, just pick up the phone and give me a call. I'm still very passionate about this. I am sure we can work something out.
Yeah, it's something I've always envied about people who started outside IT is they always have these like crazy use cases that people inside just would never see coming, but they're also at a scale that kind of makes IT budgets look like a rounding error. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah. I mean, you just, when you start from outside of IT, you have all of these problems that you want to solve, and then you finally get the tools to be able to solve it, and it's just incredible. In fact, the more I've dove into IT and the more I've gotten onto the ITSM, traditional IT side of things, almost the more frustrated I've gotten because I don't understand the IT problems as well, because I only spent, 6 months to a year on an actual help desk or IT ops center. All of my experience is in application development and outside of IT.
Every job I got into in ServiceNow, it would be like I'd be halfway through something IT related and somebody would say, stop what you're doing. That looks awesome. Now let's apply it to a big problem. And I don't want to disparage my IT background and my IT friends, but it's always been a real boon to me to always be looking at what else across the business could I be applying these concepts for. It really shocked me, even to this day, like it's 12 years later. And I'm still shocked at how many lines of business are like just gobsmacked by list views and tasks. And it's just like, it's not even the big sexy stuff. And it's just like, wow, look at the list of all those tickets. Can you send an email too? It's like, holy mackerel.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how little improvements over working off of shared Excel spreadsheets and general paperwork, how much of an improvement you can make with just a simple list view.
Yeah. I can't believe they promoted him to general, man. He should have always been Colonel Paperwork and no further. Let's talk we talk about our past, we talk about our present. Let's talk a little bit about the future. What are you most excited about in the ServiceNow platform? Is stuff you see coming, rumors, or like the way the company's going? What are you most excited about?
So a few days ago, I probably would have had a different answer, but after my latest blog post on is Service Portal going away, I've had a lot of response from ServiceNow folks talking about the new design system that they've got coming out, the new UX design system. And of course, it already is underpinning the new workspaces, which I absolutely love the look and the feel of these workspaces.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, so much attention to detail has been put into them, and there's a whole UX system that I've started pulling apart and taking a look at. I mean, they've got the graph APIs in there, they've got web components, React Redux, and there's so many different technologies that they're baking into this. Of course, I think they're moving away from React specifically, or maybe it's a part of it. I don't know how exactly they're planning on rolling this out beyond just workspaces, but it's so exciting to see. I think the best part that I've heard is the way that they have been able to apply this across the whole company.
Yeah, I heard you talking and I was already starting to worry about that. That's the big thing that I always worry about is if they come up with something new and whiz bang and it's ServiceNow disrupting ServiceNow, how effectively can they promote it across all the different silos? Because it's not just like,
right.
It's not like the platform team can just tell the ITSM team, hey, look, like these are the ground rules, march. Like, how do they rope in the HR folks and the ITBM folks and the CSM folks and just say, hey, like, here's, bam, this huge new capability, and you have to design to it. The last time I saw that happen, like, to great effect was performance analytics.
Yeah. And we saw a lot of issues on Service Portal with getting buy-in from the different teams and things kind of coming in piecemeal. ServiceNow is always kind of, at least from the outside looking in, it seems to have operated as a collection of startups, which has resulted in some really cool innovations and some really rough around the edges governance.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I've been hearing from a lot of different ServiceNow folks over this particular UX design system, it really sounds like they've actually got the governance behind this to deliver on it. And so I'm really excited to see what they come out with.
Man, me too. Just to hear you talking about it like that. I mean, I don't have any, that's like one area where I got like no tendrils into the into the organization at all. So I don't know what's coming with respect to that.
How often is governance sexy?
All the time. Like, you just gotta see one train wrecked instance, and then governance is like, oh yeah, I see you, governance.
It's never been something that's come to mind as like, oh yeah, I'm so glad they've got the governance on this. But I guess just years of the UI UX kind of ebbing and flowing, it's just...
Maybe I'm just square. Maybe I'm just square, but I love what, like, a well-oiled machine takes precision and deep thought and coming together and making sure bad stuff doesn't happen, no exceptions.
It does. I've just underappreciated it.
Yeah. Well, it's like my favorite metaphor is just the space shuttle launch metaphor. Like, at some point, some dude at NASA said, I don't care if it's new and whiz bang. Like, we're going to do this on 1950s tech, period. If it doesn't say made in 1950, like, I don't want it anywhere near this shuttle. Because it had to work. It had to be absolutely 100% working. Anyway, I'm getting way off topic there. But yes, governance is sexy. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Yeah, I'm really glad to see with the design framework that it really does seem like they've got the governance behind it to make it work. I'm so excited to see what they've come up with.
All right, so the final question is just kind of like big open season. I want you to tell us about something where either if you had an infinite time or money budget, what would you do? Or where do you see ServiceNow ripe to clinch a market that maybe the market hasn't been quite ready yet, or where else can it go?
Yeah, for those that know me, this might sound kind of weird because I'm usually more of a private sector business guy, but I'd really like to see it move into the county government, municipal government space a little more extensively, and not specifically towards the IT side, but just towards better governance. The e-citizen, helping to manage government services, whether that's your trash pickup, whether that's voting or distributing information, all the way down to like ordinances and, meeting coordination, all these different processes that occur within these municipal governments and the county governments, even in the local K-12 school space. I mean, there's county healthcare. There's so many different spaces in those lower government areas. I'd like to see a lot more done in that particular space. And piggybacking on that too is kind of the small business area. I know ServiceNow made its play at ServiceNow Express, and I guess that didn't quite pan out, but it just seems to me that there's got to be a way to make that smaller business space approach. I love building applications on ServiceNow, and there are apps that I just can't build because the market is small players, not one big player. And I would love to be able to build these on ServiceNow because that's where I like doing my work. I can do Node.js, I can do Amazon Web Services, I can do all these other things, but it's so much more fun on ServiceNow.
Yeah, there's definitely like a question of scale, right? And I've had a few app ideas myself where it's just kind of like, but is it too big a bite for entry? Like, you got to think about the minimum per year spend has got to be like $50K on an instance, right? So
right.
It's like, but what solutions out there when you compare it about like the small business solutions, like nothing out there is like $2,000 a month, right?
Right. I would love to be able to take a ServiceNow instance, and whether you domain sep it, whether you build an application that has its own internal security model to handle it, just to be able to turn around and carve up space for some of these smaller plays. I'd love to be able to do that.
Do you think there's any hope there with the new OEM model coming out? Well, I guess it's not new, but widely advertised.
Yeah, the OEM model still has certain contractual things pinning in it that kind of pushes it towards a larger scale. There's still certain restrictions in it, at least the last time I checked anyway. To a certain degree, I would love to just be able to host my own instance to start. Just host my own instance, take one of these ServiceNow developer instances and just be able to take it and carve out even just sample applications just to experiment with the market, just to be able to field test and see if there is a valid market out there, because not every application you're going to have a ready-to-go market where the customer's like, yes, build this for me. Some stuff requires some exploration, and it requires, in order to get into a new market, you have to sit down with one or two smaller players and start working your way in. You're not going to deploy a disruptive technology to Microsoft overnight. And it takes some build up to get there. And I would love to be able to have the opportunity to do that level of disruption with the ServiceNow platform.
There you have it, folks. Travis Toulson. If you haven't already, go see his code, Creative IO. Lots of service portal information there. Also, tons of super, super handy, deep analysis. If you're a developer's developer, you don't want to miss a post of Travis's.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Robert.
Thanks for watching this episode of Titans of ServiceNow. If you found this content valuable, give us a share and a like. If you want ServiceNow guidance with the passion and understanding demonstrated here, or if you want to suggest a guest for the next Titans of ServiceNow, please reach me at the email address here. Thanks for watching.